Welcome to Backroom Talk.
Main topic of conversation today, we're going to talk a little bit about gym culture. I do think there's something we could learn from that globo gym model and the very clearly defined relationships that coaches have, in those bigger facilities.
We can kind of put everything in one sentence. Don't be an asshole.
I have one final thing that I think is really important for coaches to remember when trying to create a really strong gym culture. And that is making sure that they treat clients like clients and not treating clients like friends.
To listen to more Backroom Talk, be sure to subscribe. Learn to design personalized programs with the OPEX system of coaching by heading to opexfit.com.
All right, guys. Well, welcome to another episode of Backroom Talk. We are talking to you from a slightly different location than normal, just stuck at home because of a little bit of a COVID precaution. So we are here with our families and our pets, hopefully no children or cats flying by in the background to distract us, Carl.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, we'll keep quality high though. We'll keep quality high. I feel more comfortable. I'm in my own scenario. I'm in my own world right now. So let me know if I get a little bit too comfortable, Georgia.
I will. Gotta keep it professional for the audience. So
not like that. Not like that. I meant comfortable in my words, not in what you're seeing on the screen here.
No shirts coming off, no pajama bottoms, nothing like that.
I had a meeting with Sam a little bit ago, and it was like I went from garage, like worked out in the garage, showered really quick. I had like 5 minutes until our meeting started, so I showered, got dressed, all that, and in record time, and got down for the meeting. So that would have been the meeting that I would have gotten a little bit too comfortable, and I didn't. So I'm all good.
I'm impressed, Carl. I mean, I think most people when they're around Sam Smith feel the need to get a little unprofessional. So I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I'm trying to pay Sam a compliment.
Yeah, me neither. But yeah. No, Sam he's doing well. Just got back from the games. Teams are doing really well. They're still going today as we're recording, and he had Nick Block competing in the 35 to 39, finished just outside of the podium. Had an issue with an Achilles, but worked his way through it, and Nick's just a monster. So not surprised with that at all. But yeah, Sam's doing awesome.
Yeah, indeed. Nick crushed it, and he's got a good coach in his corner with Sam, that's for sure.
Yep, for sure.
Well, we're not focusing too much on the CrossFit Games in the conversation today, but we were going to talk a little bit about the Olympics, because I know you had an article to share about Simone Biles.
Yeah, just an idea mostly. It was tough to find an article that wasn't like, overly objective in the way that they felt about it. I think we'll definitely get into that with you and I and how we feel about it. But yeah, this is a huge story right now. Before we get into that, I'm enjoying the Olympics right now. So it's such a cool time of year, and I know there's like, it's a cool time of every 4 years, I guess you could say. I won't get into the Winter Olympics thing. I think we chatted on that a couple of weeks ago.
We did.
No, it's just really cool. I mean, we're introduced to new sports every 4 years. And there's like an appreciation of the amount of work that it takes to get on this stage and all of the issues that come with all of that pressure and being on that stage and how amazing these athletes are. Colton and I were watching like the shooting quarter semifinals and finals yesterday, where it was, I'm going to sound like an idiot, but I want to say discus, but it's not a discus. It's when the disc comes out and they have the rifle, boom, they have to shoot the disc and it explodes. Yeah. We're watching that yesterday and I was like, oh my God, this is just unbelievable for a human being to be that good. Like focus, reaction time, consistency across 10 of those per round and they're nailing like 9 or 10. It's always really cool to watch that. But moving into what we're chatting on, I think it aligns with or has some connections to the pressure and all of that when these athletes get on this stage is the obvious story, the Simone Biles piece. I think everyone listening probably is familiar with what happened, but let's just refer to this ESPN article, and let me just walk through the first couple paragraphs, and then I'd love to know your thoughts because I know I have some. I'm not gray about this one. like I'm in one camp on this, and I just want to know how you feel about it. And we haven't talked
Sure.
about this. We didn't talk about this before, so I actually am curious to see, how you feel about this whole thing.
Yeah, run us through the article.
All right, so this is an ESPN.com article. So it has some pieces from Simone herself, and then I won't get into the pieces where they give their opinions, but just the first couple of paragraphs. Simone Biles said her mind and body are simply not in sync. In an Instagram post Friday morning, while going more in depth about the issues that she says has plagued her since she arrived in Tokyo at the Olympic Games. Earlier this week, Biles withdrew from Thursday's individual all-around competition at the Olympics to focus on her mental health. The decision came after Biles also withdrew from the team final after one rotation on vault. And then it just walked through the video that Simone posted on Instagram and her thoughts and all of that. So overall, Georgia, what do you think about this? Like, where do you sit on this? Do you have an opinion? Or are you just like, yeah, I feel no way about it? Or do you feel strongly one way or the other about this whole thing?
I don't feel mega strongly either way. I'm not the type of person to typically latch onto an issue like this and post, Instagram memes about it and really like get fired up. That's just not so much my style. But I do have some thoughts around it for sure. And I think it's first important to like take a moment to just consider what you said earlier in the amount of pressure and preparation that goes into athletes preparing to step on the world stage for something like the Olympics. And then the added consideration that this was supposed to happen last year and it's ended up happening this year. So just stretching that season out for an additional year, the stress and uncertainty that probably added for a lot of athletes because of that, extra unknown factor of was this thing going to happen or not over the last 12 months. So I'm very curious to know, how that affected preparation for a number of athletes going into the Olympics. I have no idea if that had any effect on Simone or not. I do think I've seen people posting either side of the fence, either standing in support with Simone and, saying this is a great win for mental health, that people can come out and like someone like Simone can come out and say, I'm not in a good mental place to be able to do this and I need to step back for my own good. And then I've seen, people on the other side of the fence that are calling it a bad excuse and, saying that Simone has taken a spot on the Olympic team from another woman. And I don't really fall super strongly into either of those camps, but I do think it's important to recognize that the demands of a sport like gymnastics are not just physical, and to suggest that it's only, a physical health issue that might be a reason for someone to step back and actually have to pull out, I think denies the fact that there's a hugely mental component to competing in a sport like gymnastics. And someone has got to be so acute and so on to perform a lot of these skills at the level and complexity that they are performing them. So if there is a mental health issue going on and Simone is not able to focus and have her head in the right space, I can see that having disastrous physical consequences in the fact that she's not able to perform and potentially, misses something by an inch and ends up really hurting herself because gosh, these gymnasts put their bodies on the line and perform some incredible and really dangerous feats if they're not, executed to a T. So I do think it's important to recognize that the mental side absolutely plays a huge role in that athlete's success. And if they feel that factor is missing, how is that different to there being a physical limitation like a sprained ankle or something like that prevents performance on the day?
Gosh, yeah, well said. let me just start with, I agree with everything that you just said, but I'm going to look at it from a different standpoint. I'm going to look at it from a non-sports standpoint. I'm going to look at it from a non-polarized standpoint where I agree with you. It's like, no, like well, these are my personal opinions. I don't think that it should be like, oh my gosh, everyone bow down to Simone because she bowed out of the Olympics. Like she's not in my opinion, she's not like a hero. And I don't think she was trying to be. She's just like, hey, I gotta fucking take care of myself, right? Like some things are not right here. So I don't think we have to polarize it in terms of saying like, hey, put her on a pedestal, like she should be the hero, blah, blah, blah. And I also don't think we have to like tear her down because she made a decision that she felt was best for her. I'm not going to say that she felt it was best for her team. It's like, what do we tell people all the time? It's like, take care of yourself first. And then when we see someone that attempts to take care of themselves, whether that's, that causes good or negative, outcomes for other people, we shit on them, right? So it's like, she's taking care of herself. It should actually end there, right? The conversation should end there. It's like, did she calculate, this being after a substitute could have stood in for her and got their shine on the Olympic stage? I don't know. I don't think so, right? So it's like when she's sitting down and making that decision, like, hey, do I want to go out and perform these extremely dangerous stunts that literally no one else in the world can perform? Uh, i.e., they name these stunts after her because no one else in the world can perform these. If she feels this much discomfort on performing those stunts, it's like, don't do it, because what is the worst case scenario? It's like she falls on her neck and she dies, right? Like, have you watched her move? Like, have you watched the power that comes from her body when she catapults off of a vault or even in a floor routine? I look at that and I'm like, how is that even possible for a human to do those things, especially a human of that size and that stature? So she's doing things that are so freaking dangerous. I don't think we realize that those things are that dangerous because we've never seen it go totally wrong on TV and someone die from doing those things, but it has happened. So, for her to put herself first and put herself before her team, quote unquote, it's like that should be her decision, right? I think it's extremely weird that people take this personally. I think it's extremely weird that people say you're letting your country down. I think it's extremely weird when people compare her to an NCAA athlete or compare her to even someone like, LeBron James. Because I've heard it a couple times from some NBA analysts. They're like, what would we think if LeBron James got to the NBA finals and he's like, hey guys, I'm just not feeling this, I'm going to have to bow out? It's like, yeah, we would probably feel a different way because that's a completely different sport and they're putting themselves in completely different scenarios and situations. So it's like, yeah, we probably would think that was weird if LeBron did it because he plays 5-on-5 basketball, right? It's like, and we're not even considering what the hell this woman has gone through in her past with like the Nasser stuff and the sexual abuse and all that. We have no idea what's going on inside of her head. So for us to even have an opinion on it, and that's why I think I don't have a super strong opinion either way. I think it's weird that people do. For people that have strong opinions on it, I think those people they need to take a step back and think about the things that she's feeling and try to think about those things, because none of us know where she's coming from, what's in her head. None of us know what it's like to be the best person in the world at this one thing with a spotlight on you every 4 years. And I think this is probably the first time that she hasn't delivered, quote unquote, right? Like she's one of the most decorated female Olympians of all time, one of the most decorated Olympians of all time. And I don't know if you had a chance to check out the Weight of Gold documentary that Michael Phelps put together last year on HBO, but
No.
gosh, it was good. Yeah, it was good. And it was about this. That's the crazy thing. It was about this. It was about what it takes for Olympic athletes to put it all on the line every 4 years and then go home and no one gives a shit about them. Are we talking about Simone Biles and US gymnastics next month? Probably not. Are we talking about it in 2 years? Absolutely not. Right. So it's like these people are like, they go from the highest of highs to like working at Arby's right? And like literally, and it was in this documentary. It's like, yeah, I'm working at a fast food restaurant, but I have a bunch of gold medals at home. And people are like, it's just really weird. And Michael Phelps went through that, where he was extremely suicidal and went through numerous bouts of depression and had issues with substance abuse and all of that. And he did such a good job putting together this order, helping put this documentary together called The Weight of Gold. And you see people watch that, you see it all over. I remember when that was released, I saw it all over social media where people are like applauding Michael Phelps, and they're just like, this needs to be out there, this needs to be known, because there were people in that documentary that committed suicide during the documentary. It was so bad, and people are like applauding that. And now someone tries to take care of themselves, and those same people are like letting the country down, doing this, doing that. It's just like, gosh, we got to look at these situations independently of each other and independently of our thoughts. But yeah, I know I sound super passionate about this, but I guess it's just because like it's frustrating to see people talk out of both sides of their mouth sometimes, if that makes sense.
Definitely it does. And I just kind of last point, I think the idea that Simone would have made this decision flippantly without realizing that there was going to be backlash and that she was going to face condemnation, it must have been an incredibly hard decision to arrive to pull out and decide that she wasn't going to move forward with competition. And I think we have to just recognize the magnitude of that and, let her, as you said, let her have that and let her do what's best for her, and not think that it's a decision she made lightly. and it was just the way she was feeling on the day. There was a good reason that she needed to not move forward with competition, because she would have known in making this decision that there was going to be some negative backlash and people were going to be talking badly about her. And then kind of on the other side, I do just think it's interesting the amount of people that have seized this, kind of mental health message. And, this is great that mental health is being given this spotlight, and it's a legitimate excuse for, not being able to do your job. I think that there is like an appetite for that kind of acceptance right now, because mental health is such a taboo issue and is typically so pushed under the rug too much. Like, people do not like talking about it. So I see that like really strong social media reaction that is applauding her as a hero for an action she probably didn't mean to be heroic, as just like a general, again, appetite for greater awareness and greater acceptance of mental health issues and more widespread understanding of it. So you kind of can't blame people for seizing that and, seeing someone that they admire so much and wanting to use their actions to kind of prop up something that they believe in.
Yeah. 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 Let's end it there. Yeah, I agree with you. On that.
All right. Should we kind of change tune from talking about the Olympics and Simone? Though I'm going to watch that documentary tonight, I think. I don't have anything to.
Awesome.
Is it awesome. On Netflix?
No, I think it's on HBO. The Weight of Gold.
Okay. All right. We finished The Crown yesterday, so I need something new to watch.
What have you watched Black Summer yet, or did you guys stop after a couple episodes?
Oh, we only got a couple episodes into that, so we will pick that up again this weekend too.
Pretty good one.
Love a zombie show. All right. Well, main topic of conversation today, we're going to talk a little bit about gym culture and some of the things that can make and break, great culture in a gym. And from the perspective of the coach, not so much, what is the gym owner doing to create great culture in their gym, but more what is the role of the coach in that, and what are some things that they can, kind of look after. I think gym culture, I was thinking about this, Carl, like gym culture is such an interesting phenomenon because of all the people that are like in gyms working out and doing fitness. Culture is like not really a huge priority for a lot of them. Like, at least the way I'm thinking about culture and relationships and connection and all of these things that we think are really important in a gym experience and that we see in OPEX gyms, they're kind of unique to the micro gym. right? Like you don't really see somewhere like a Lifetime or, you know, a 24-hour fitness, like having great gym culture. Those places have a culture, like there's definitely something about it. And there's a type of person that goes to them that attracts other people there. But I don't think it's not quite the same as I guess the thing that we're talking about and leaning into.
Yeah, they're definitely thinking about it. Yeah, they're thinking about it. The global gyms are thinking about what they're breeding and the culture that they're creating. They're definite. Like you look at Lifetime, and if we were to have a conversation on like I say Lifetime because I think at least here that's the one that most people would know. Um, you can already if you've ever been in those, like I worked at one for a number of years. It's like if you've ever been in one you understand what culture they're trying to breed. And, you know, I was kind of behind the scenes there, and culture was a big thing. It was like premium, 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 make people feel really good about being here every single day, right? It's like the culture at Lifetime when I was there, this may have changed, but the culture wasn't about, oh, let's get really good results. The culture wasn't about anything else. This is a very premium facility and we want people to feel really good no matter what they're doing, whether they're going to the shower, whether they're signing up for personal training with you, whether they're using the basketball courts, whatever that is, that's what they stood behind. They're like, we want people to feel good. That's it. That's it. Um, you look at somewhere smaller here, like Mountainside, right? It's like they're quickly building a very unique culture over there, right? It's like health is first, and you know we want to build very robust and strong immune systems, and we want to fight COVID, and we want to do that. Like that's the culture they're trying to build there. They're almost like a stick it to the man culture. You go to Planet Fitness, what's the culture they have there? It's like comfort, and we don't want anyone to feel you know like their life is going to be taken from them by someone dropping a deadlift from the knee. And you know what I mean, like I would argue that these places think about culture a lot.
Yeah, you're probably right there. Like as you're saying that, I'm totally agreeing. And I'm thinking that as well, they have a lot more control over what culture looks like between their different franchises and in the way coaches operate in those gyms. Like there's definitely a more robust onboarding and education process for coaches to ensure quality in how communication is happening with clients and what that experience looks like. So yeah, I would agree with you that there is definitely culture there. It's just different to what we know in culture in the micro gym.
Yeah, I think when we think of culture, we think more about relationships, like interpersonal relationships. We definitely think about feelings and how people feel and how they perceive the facility when they walk in and all of that. But because we're in that more micro model, we have the ability to think about relationships. The bigger players, it's like relationships isn't realistic because of the volume, right? So they're like, okay, and I don't want to speak for all of these organizations. I think they're like, okay, we want to create a feeling, right? Because we can scale that feeling. We can make all of these facilities follow the same SOP. We can make them look this way and feel this way and have these rules. So I think they're going after a feeling where when we think of culture inside of our gym specifically, or even the micro gym model, we're thinking about building really good relationships and community and having like you know, a similar goal in terms of why the heck people are there.
Yeah, you're totally spot on with that. I do think before we kind of move on from the Globo gym, and I'd like to focus a little bit more on what happens inside of micro gyms, because again, that is our niche. And I think most of the coaches that we're talking to are falling within that kind of a model as well. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe everyone who's listening to us actually works at a Globo gym, but I don't know. Let us know where you're listening from, guys. Leave us a comment. We'd like to know. But I do think there's something we could learn from that Globo gym model and the very clearly defined relationships that coaches have, you know, in those bigger facilities with the clients, and what that like kind of blueprinting of the customer experience looks like and how the coach fits into that. I do think we're and we'll get into this, but where a lot of micro gyms fall short is actually not having those pieces really clearly laid out and creating consistency in them day after day, month after month, year after year, which is ultimately how you create a really good culture through consistency.
Yeah, I mean that's an important variable, right? It's like, if you can create an environment, or let's just use the word culture, because it makes sense. If you can create a culture where you can predict things, that's comfortable for people, right? And what you're saying in like customer experience and blueprinting that customer experience from the time you sit down and have a sales consultation with someone to onboard them into the gym and introduce them to the other staff members and the other members of the gym, to assessing them, to how it works day to day. Whenever they walk in, they know that they look to the right and they grab this towel, or they look to the left and they're handed this towel. And you know what I mean? So like when that's familiar to people, I think it just makes them more comfortable. And that's nothing to do with building great relationships and all of that. But I think when surprises become a variable that occurs frequently, I think people just feel less comfortable. So that's the whole deal, or the whole goal with creating blueprints, is putting yourself in your customer's shoes and saying like, okay, if I was a customer coming in, how do I want to experience XYZ? And then you talk to your customers and you ask them, is this how you actually want to experience XYZ? And then you learn, over time, and you shift that blueprint. But gym owners or coaches or whoever's listening, if you haven't thought about that before, that's where you start, right? Like you put your shoes you put yourself in the shoes of your customer and you say, how do I want to experience X, Y, and Z?
That experience piece is really interesting because I think that oftentimes where coaches run into issues is they think that their clients want to experience fitness like they want to experience fitness. And it's really important for us to step back and realize that the role that fitness has in our lives as coaches, and the environment that we want to step into, and like the way that we want to interact and potentially, bro out and throw down a little bit and like have some casual banter, that might actually not be the most appealing advice for the types of client, the most appealing environment for the types of clients that we want to work with. So important to step back and remove oneself from that picture.
Yeah, definitely. If you were to lay out, Georgia, some of sorry if I'm like berating, like if you had something in mind that you wanted to hit on first, but if you had to lay out, let's call it like the top, three top three mistakes that you think most coaches make in building a solid culture, what do you think those would be?
The first one is not treating their job as a coach as a like real professional career. And by that, I mean, I've been part of and I've been to a lot of gyms where you show up and the coach is like potentially like sweaty and covered in chalk because they just finished their workout, or they're coaching class with a protein shake in their hand, or they're, showing up to open the gym at the same time as the clients are standing around the door, or they are jumping in on the workout and working out alongside their clients, or they're showing up hungover. Like, I feel like I could list it on and on and on again. And I've seen this in so many different gyms, and especially honestly, just with a background in CrossFit, in a lot of CrossFit gyms. I've traveled a lot and I've dropped into a lot of CrossFit gyms, and you notice that stuff, and it really hurts the culture because you kind of show up to it and you don't get that sense that you're part of a premium fitness facility. If that's what you're looking for, you kind of get the feeling that the coach doesn't really care too much and they're just kind of here to have a good time. And I don't think that for the most part, that is the message and the brand and the culture that most coaches or gyms would want to put forward. And I don't think that necessarily the intentions are always bad. And I think a lot of coaches might not realize that they're doing it because of that piece I talked about earlier, where coaches think about how they want to experience fitness and don't always think about how their clients want to experience fitness. And, 22-year-old male coach is very different to a 42-year-old mother of three. So that would be number one to me. What do you think about that one, Carl?
Gosh, I agree. There's a lot in that. Yeah, there's a lot in that. Would that be like your top thing that comes to mind when you're like, what creates a bad culture?
Yeah, number one would just be lack of professionalism, because I think it ultimately starts with the coach, and the coach like really owning what they want, to push forward. And if they don't want to act in a professional way and treat their job as a coach as a professional career, then how can they expect people to see value in the service that they're putting forward? And it really does just ultimately reduce that value and again, reduce the professionalism of the service. And, we're in this game of creating professional fitness coaches, and I keep using this word professional, but I think that is something that should always come through in the culture of a gym. I think you want people to walk in and you want them to think this is a professional fitness facility that I am inside of, and there are professional fitness coaches who care about what they're doing. Because ultimately, if you're not acting with professionalism, it's just a lack of care. And if you're showing a lack of care, what does that say about your values around fitness and this thing that you're trying to share with people? So that would be number one for me.
Let me come in with my number one, just so I don't exhaust your vocal cords.
Appreciate it.
But let me add one thing to that. I think it's important to point out that when you say professional and when you're saying premium, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't mean the aesthetic of the place. You're not like walking in and it's like, oh, there's beautiful this and that. You're talking about the way that the coaches or the gym owners look at, view, how seriously they take their profession, right? Like their jobs and what they're doing on a daily basis.
Exactly.
Because I've walked into a lot of gyms in my day. I'm 35. I'm talking like I'm 70. I've walked into a lot of gyms, and gosh, if I were to hastily like write down or like do some like hasty math of like percentages of like premium looking gyms to that feeling that I get, it's actually very low, very, very low. If I think of like the gyms that, let's just use CrossFit because you mentioned CrossFit gyms. I've walked into a lot of CrossFit gyms where, the coaches were trying to do the right things. Like they were bought in, they took their job seriously. They were all in, right? I'll leave it there. But I've walked into a lot of those gyms. I would say that those would far outweigh the premium facilities that I walked in and saw trainers kind of like shooting the shit, not caring about the clients that they're PTing at the moment and stuff like that. And then obviously biasly, when I think about like an OPEX gym, I'm like, okay, that's like the gold standard, right? You walk in that place, the people are aligned, the coaches are aligned, the gym, you know what I'm saying? And obviously that comes from a very biased place, but gosh, if we didn't feel that way, that'd be weird, I think. But sorry, my number one thing would be, we throw around terms like purpose and like the why and all of that, but I think that would be it, right? It's like having a gym or having a coach or a group of coaches that are aligned on what their purpose is and they're moving toward a very similar goal. It's not always the same goal, but a similar goal. And let's not get into like what is the best goal and our beliefs around that, but I think it's important when you walk into a facility or you sit down to talk to a coach, no matter what your goals are as that coach's client, you can smell what that coach is about. You can smell where that coach wants you to go, irregardless of where you want to go and what your goals are. You can kind of smell where that coach is and what their purpose is. I think if that's missing, that's the start of having a recipe for disaster. And now you throw in an owner and a bunch of coaches and all of that, and they're going like this way, that way, this way, that way. That's when you get into that weird scenario of like, coach A is like, they're very clear on what they want to do, and they're very clear on where they think the gym should go. And then you have coach B, C, and the gym owner are all in different places. And coach A is like, I can do this shit way better. Like, I don't respect the owner of this gym. I can run his or her gym way better than they can. And then like years pass and they're still with that organization. Resentment is built up and they leave, they open up their own gym and they take all the clients, right? So that's an example of, I would say bad culture, right? Like you have a bunch of people inside of an organization that all have different purposes or outcomes. I'm not saying that in a woo-woo way. I just mean like the way that things should be done inside of that facility. So I think that would
Yeah.
be my number one.
Yeah, all the coaches that are inside of the facility need to have alignment around, what their beliefs are in fitness, and that has to fit inside the model that they're in. And not only that, I think like as an important first start, they have to have beliefs around fitness for other people, outside of just themselves. And fitness is like one of those interesting things, right? Where a lot of people get into it because they love working out. And there's a pretty low barrier of entry to actually working in fitness. And some people, I think, get into it again just because they kind of love working out and they didn't really think about, what came next, which is sharing that love for working out with other people and all of the things that go inside of that. So I do think that there are a lot of, younger coaches in the industry who just don't really know what they believe in fitness yet. And you can kind of smell that, right? It's like this person, they like talking about squatting, but they don't really, have thoughts around what this means for other people coming in and potentially wanting to work with them. So I think for coaches to just kind of take a step back and think about, this isn't just a hobby. It's something that you have to like truly believe in and have an ideal of, when someone comes to work with you, what you want that progression and, that fitness journey to look like for that person as well. Having that in place is super important.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think something that's important there is like, gosh, there shouldn't be, well, at least from our standpoint, I think we could say this confidently. There's no judgment on what the hell that idea is, right? But I am gonna hold firm where it's like they need to have a thought on that. And it's like, why the hell am I doing this? And what's the whole purpose and the big idea behind doing it? Because it just gets weird. I had a back and forth. Sorry, I'm gonna tell a quick story. I had a back and forth with a guy on a social media platform a few weeks ago where it was, and I'm terrible because I'm like, I think it's a huge waste of time to do the back and forth. So like my answers are very short. I don't like think about them enough, as much as I probably should before answering. I just don't want to invest time like arguing with people. So I was like very short with him and blah, blah, blah. But it was like a back and forth on like, what your goals are for a client. And I like laid out very hastily, like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like it was like we were talking about like patterns of movement or something like that. And I was just like, yeah, man, I think an overarching goal for anyone, no matter what their goals are, is they're able to, you know, go through functional movement patterns on a day-to-day basis and, walk upstairs and, sit down on a toilet to take a shit and all that. And, he came back and he's like, well, you can't just blanket that and say like, that's your goal for everyone, because what if that's not the person's goal? And I'm like, that's just what I stand behind. Like, that's my goal for them. I don't care if someone comes to me and they're like, I want to be a world-class figure skater. I still want that person to be able to sit down and take a shit on the toilet in 20 years, if that's, because we all have to do that as human beings. And it was like this weird back and forth that I didn't, elaborate enough on and all that. And that was an example of like someone that's just like, and I don't know if I don't know this guy personally, but I would assume that's one of those people that's just like going about life and just like has this thought in mind. And like every client that comes through, it's like, your goals are your goals. I don't give a shit about what I think, or I haven't even thought about what I think and where I'm trying to lead you. I'm just going to do whatever the hell that you want to do. And, you get that client and all clients do this. And even we do this. It's like, I want to do this month and that month. And, you go through like 15 different variations of goals. And it's like, you sit down and you're like, oh man, I'm in the same exact place that I started in, because I have no, belief system as a coach, and I'm not trying to move this person toward anything. So that's kind of where that idea came from. It's like, we have to have something. And I know we've beat this to death and we've talked about it before, but as a coach, you have to have something.
Yeah. Well, I guess to kind of move on to my next thought, it would be, I think coaches have to have a feeling in themselves that they have the ability to grow in the environment that they're in and in the gym that they're in, if they're going to be a part of be a part of a healthy culture. Because there is nothing worse as a human being to feel like you are stagnant and you don't have the room to realize your potential. And I don't think that there is a way. And I think one of the reasons you see toxic relationships and toxic environments, occurring in gyms is because coaches feel like they're trapped, or they don't have this opportunity to grow and develop in the way that they want to. And, sometimes that's like just a part of it, and you got to move on. You got to find another job. Like, there are some jobs that are good for a period of time, but not for forever. But I think ultimately a really great gym culture creates an environment for the coach where they can realize their potential, where they feel challenged every day and engaged by what they're doing, because clients can smell that too, right? I know one thing that was always, and I don't want to speak for the clients that I've worked with in the past, but one thing that always meant a lot to the people that I worked with in gyms was the fact that I was very dedicated to self-development and self-improvement. And in my role, did my very best to educate and share new ideas and push things forward, and let the excitement for that kind of rub off on the people around me. And it was cool for the clients that I worked with to get to watch me grow as a professional, because they knew that it meant that I cared and that I wanted to, again, be able to help them grow on my journey too. So I think a really important thing for culture is that coaches have that ability to grow and develop.
Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, no one wants to be around, not even be around. No one wants to, because I know we're looking at this from a coach's standpoint, but what do coaches do? They coach clients, right? Like, no one wants to pay someone money and they feel like that person is just like stagnant and content, right? That's weird, especially in this world. So yeah, the self-development and the motivation to develop oneself, I think, is extremely important. And that lives inside of our values as well. We always talk about that, right? It's like, what are you learning today, right? And I know, we've built a culture internally, where we have those conversations. It's like, what are you reading right now? What are you taking from that? You know what I mean? And we're like trying to like feed off of each other and learn little tidbits from each other and stuff like that. I think that creates a better culture when you have people around you that are motivated to just be better. If being better means like learning more or whatever the case is, I think that's always a good environment and a good culture to be around.
Definitely, especially like when the outcome and the reason why people come to you is for their own growth and development in fitness. They want to know that you're the kind of person that's also growth minded and committed to improving yourself also.
Yep.
Do you have another one?
Yeah, my second would be more around, like, I have the idea in my head. Let me try to put it in words. More around people, I guess we could call it like vulnerability. Coaches having the ability to be vulnerable and not being know-it-alls. Like, we've all been around the coach that's like, their shit doesn't stink. They know everything. They can't do any wrong. That breeds terrible culture because no one likes that person, right? if you're a client in a gym like that and you have that one coach that's just like walking around like this and, can never do anything wrong. And when they do something wrong, they try to cover it up by like with an excuse or whatever the case is. So I think wrapping up, like, you have to have the ability to be vulnerable and be okay to be wrong, because none of us know everything. None of us are right 100% of the time. And I think a very important aspect of building a good culture is admitting that and telling that to your coworkers, right? Or telling that to the person that owns the facility, if you're not that person, and having those conversations where it's like, hey, I need some help here, right? I don't understand this. I want to get better here. And I know that kind of melds nicely with what you talked about with like self-development and stuff like that. But being okay admitting that they don't know everything and being open to learning new things, I think go hand in hand. But yeah, I think we've all met a couple people that have no ability to be vulnerable or admit that they don't know anything or know everything, and are really afraid to make mistakes.
Yeah, I've definitely known a few of them. But I think that people tend to mirror the behaviors of others, and the ability for coaches to be vulnerable is so important because it allows clients to mirror that and be vulnerable themselves. And if we want our clients to grow and develop in autonomy and to feel comfortable speaking to us as coaches, they have to feel like it's okay to be vulnerable, and they have to feel like it's not stupid to put up their hand and ask a question about, how do they perform this kettlebell front rack split squat because they're not sure how to do it. And if, you're a know-it-all, how much is that person going to feel like asking you that question? They're not going to feel like it because they're going to be afraid that you're going to look at them like they're stupid, and dismiss their question. So if a coach is capable of being vulnerable, admitting when they're wrong, asking questions, saying when they don't know, it's going to give the client the space to be able to do that too, and to be able to feel really comfortable asking questions. And I know as a coach, like, I love the clients who want to ask the questions and who put their hand up and who are okay having those conversations, to a limit, right? There's such a thing as too many questions, backroom talk. But no, I think that the ability to be vulnerable, like you said, just gives people the room to be that themselves.
Yeah, I think that's a sign of strength, right? Having the ability to admit those things, especially when you're the person that people are looking to for those answers. I think there's some trust that comes along with that, like being able to admit that, because people take on personas that we ask them to, right? Like if I'm like, hey, Georgia, well, what is something I say to you often? Okay, yeah, I say that you're like the grammar police, right? It's like, hey, you're really good at this. Like, I have to be careful when I'm around Georgia, blah, blah, blah. Like, by me saying that, that probably indirectly actually makes you feel like you have to act that way and be really good at that, right? Like, I don't think you're like going home and like stressing about it, but by me saying those things, then that's just one really small example, but by me saying those things quite often, it empowers you more to be that person, right? So when we tell someone, hey, you're really smart, I really look up to you, like that puts that onus on them. They're like, oh man, I have to like keep going with this thing. I have to be that person for them. But we have to be okay and not always living up to that expectation. And that's where I say, like, being vulnerable and being able to admit that you don't know something or admit your mistakes. I think once that level of trust is already built up with a person or a client, and for you to admit that, I think a lot of trust comes from that. So I think it's empowering, but I think you have to like get to a certain spot to be able to be vulnerable. Like, for example, someone comes in the first day and they meet you and you're like, oh, I don't know that. I don't know that. It's like they're being overly vulnerable. They're like, yeah, this person's dumb. Right. So I think there's a time and place, but yeah, I think that builds a lot of trust with clients and coworkers.
Definitely. I have one final thing that I think is really important for coaches to remember when trying to create a really strong gym culture, and that is making sure that they treat clients like clients and not treating clients like friends. And that doesn't mean that you can't be friends with your clients. I have some clients that I've had for a long time that I've had fantastic relationships with and gone out to brunch and like really been friends with outside of the gym. But at the same time, I do think it is really important to be able to put the coach's hat on and to be able to have a real coach client relationship where you are treating them just as you would treat any other client who comes to you. And you have, I kind of spoke about it before, but that level of professionalism where you're doing your job the way that you need to do your job and not letting the trivialities of, life and friendship kind of get in the way, and just ensure that people are actually getting the service that they're paying for. And I've seen a lot of times over the years, coaches have, that handful of clients that they just kind of love a little bit more than the rest of them, and they become their buddies, and their behavior in the gym to them actually starts to become a little bit unprofessional and too friendly, and that person, they end up not coaching them. Like they don't mean to, they really they want to, you can tell they want to be around them and want to be friends with them, but they're acting buddy and they're not giving them the help they need. Like they're not taking the time to watch them do their back squats and give them feedback and talk to them about where nutrition is and how hydration is being. They're spending all of their time gossiping and joking and not giving the client what the client actually needs as a client. So I think that piece is really important, because friendship is great. It's great to, again, have a friendly relationship with your clients. And I do believe that coaches and clients can have friendships outside of the gym and can go out to dinner together. And that can be a totally healthy, balanced thing. But there has to be that moment where the switch flips and you are having that coach client relationship and providing that person the value that they need and getting them the results that they want, because ultimately that person is paying you to look after their fitness. So if they're not getting fitter, they're just having a good time hanging out, then at some point the novelty of that will wear off and they're going to go somewhere else.
Gosh, yeah, that's a really good one. I would title that be the authority figure. You have to continue to be the authority figure. And I remember I had a coach. They worked for me for about 2 years, and they were all individual design. And this coach's issue was I'm going to keep using they because I don't want to say gender, because people might figure out who it is, or that person might know who I'm talking about. They messed up. They weren't the authority figure to all of their clients. And what I mean by that is they opened up a little bit too much with a good amount of their clients, talking about the relationship with their spouse and opening up on very, very personal matters and what's happening. And it almost flipped to, some of these clients started to feel like they needed to coach their coach because that coach was no longer the authority figure. So that's a very important thing that you bring up is, no matter how good those relationships are, keep thinking about, am I that authority figure in this relationship? Because as soon as that flips and the client is now the authority figure because the client is now coaching the coach and giving them life advice, the whole relationship is not ruined. It's not that those two humans can't have a relationship. That coach-client relationship is now ruined because that client no longer looks at that coach as their authority figure. They no longer look at that coach as the person that I go and speak to when I'm having problems with X, Y, and Z, because they've unleashed the veil a little bit too much where they're like, that person actually can't help me with that because I know what problems they're having. And I'm not saying hide everything from your clients, but just think about being the authority figure. That was a really good one. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of once you've pulled back the veil, you can't put that away anymore. People can't unsee what they've seen there. So yeah, revealing a little bit too much is I think kind of the final straw sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. The last piece I have, Georgia, and I'll be quick on this because I think it's fairly obvious, and I think everything we've talked about leading up to this has some connections to it, but is creating an environment where people can feel comfortable. When we think about like workspaces, right, and like let's call it like corporate America or any corporate anywhere, right? Like if you work somewhere, if someone feels a certain kind of way every time they walk into the office or walk into the gym and they feel very uptight, and I'm going to use the term unsafe. I don't mean like they feel like they're going to get beat. I'm just saying like they don't feel like they can like let their hair down and open up and, be themselves. That's always a very, very bad environment. And reality tells us that you're going to experience that. You as a coach will probably experience that if you work for someone or if you have people that work for you, right? And this can be online, this can be in a gym environment, this could be anywhere. There's like, there's weird, there's weird things that can develop, right? Where people just don't feel safe and they don't feel like they can be themselves on a day-to-day basis, and that stuff is sometimes really hard to sniff out. So as a coach, it's like, what are you doing to create that safe environment? If you have coaches that work with you, what are you doing to create that safe environment for your coaches? If you're by yourself and you're in a facility, how are you creating a really safe environment for your clients where they feel like they can come in and, like you said, and I know there's connections here, but where they feel comfortable enough to raise their hand and ask you a question. They're not just like, "Ooh, I'm not going to ask Georgia that because she's going to say something I don't want to hear, or she's going to get really upset if I ask this question," right? It's like, how can we create those safe environments? Because if we don't have a safe environment, we're probably not going to have a place where we can create a really good culture.
Definitely. I mean, ultimately, like, what are gyms? They're an environment for people to come and grow and develop around fitness. And in order to grow and develop in any arena in life, you need safety. Someone needs to be secure enough. If they're going to grow, they have to have a foundation of safety and security that they can build upon. And so they absolutely have to have that in a gym if we're going to ask them to work on improving their fitness.
Yeah, I mean, to wrap it up, I think we can kind of put everything in one sentence. Don't be an asshole.
That's it. Peace out. It is very true though. Just be a good empathetic human. Treat other people like you would want to be treated, and you'll probably be okay.
Yeah, you'll probably be all right. Yeah. Listen to other people's thought process and take that into consideration. And yeah, I think the main word is just like listen more than listen more than you speak, and do your best to understand other people and where they're coming from. I think we can get a long way and build really good cultures if we just focus on that one thing. It's like, I really want to understand where everyone's coming from. I think a lot of good things come from that.
Definitely. And if you're coaching the gym floor, make sure you're playing good music. That's important for gym culture.
Ooh, really quick before we leave, what is good music, Georgia?
Well, that is like such a subjective question, isn't it? I would say anything that is not country or like top 40 pop.
We just lost thousands of followers at least.
Guys, forgive me. I'm not from here. Australians are like,
oh, don't use
I can't
that.
speak for all Australians, but American like pop country just like doesn't quite resonate with me, unfortunately. But no, I'll do most stuff. Like I'll do some EDM, I'll do some hip hop, like all that stuff's good with me, but not like a big classic rock or country girl. What about you?
You know the answer to this. I'm a hip hop type of person, mostly in the 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I like it when Carl plays the music.
Oh, thank you. I like when you play the music too, Georgia.
Yeah, it's like a little diversity between the two of us in terms of music taste.
no country. I'm not saying I don't like country. I just don't listen to it.
Carl, I know you don't like country.
I've tried for our country music listeners. Gosh, I've tried. I really have. I just can't do it. I don't know. Can't do it.
Nothing wrong with you guys personally. We just don't like your music. That's all.
What do you mean, you people?
Well, I think we should wrap it up there, Carl. Probably a good place to finish it before we offend anyone else and their music sensibilities. But guys, as always, we massively appreciate it if you could leave a review. So if you're on audio, just take a moment, open up that podcast app, find Backroom Talk, and please go ahead, give us a 5-star review and leave us a comment. We'll take 4.5 as well, I guess. And if you're listening on YouTube, be sure to leave us a comment and let us know how you thought the episode went.
Hey everyone, I just wanted to take a second and invite you to our very first Coaches Summit, October 22nd and 23rd, here in Scottsdale, Arizona. At the summit, we're going to spend 2 days learning and sharing your passion for fitness with the OPEX team and fellow CCP coaches. We're going to live the OPEX mantra of teach, learn, move, and create with interactive demos, group collaboration, and guest lectures. Enhance your coaching abilities and share your expertise so you go home knowing that you're improving the way that we share health and wellness with the world. Early bird prices are now $299, and that price ends on August 6th, so you'll see a little bit of a bump there. So grab those passes, and I hope to see you there.